There is a version of Portland, Oregon that no tourist map will show you. It does not appear on Google Maps. It is not listed in the visitor's guide handed out at the airport. It exists below the version of the city you can walk through in daylight, beneath the breweries, the food carts, the bookstore that takes up an entire block. It exists in brick and dirt and silence. For 3 decades, a small number of city maintenance workers were among the only living people who regularly walked through it. Not on a guided tour, not with a flashlight and a ticket stub, as part of the job, checking pipes, inspecting old foundations, making sure a 140-year-old city didn't quietly collapse into itself. This is a story about what's actually down there, not the legend, not the ghost tour script, the real lair underneath Portland's Shanghai Tunnels, what's documented, what's myth, and what one retired tunnel access worker described as the part of the job nobody warns you about. By the end of this video, you'll understand why historians are still arguing about this place 50 years after the first tour group walked into it, and why, even with all the doubt, nobody has ever fully explained everything that's down there. To understand what's underground, you have to understand what Portland used to be. Between roughly 1850 and the 1940s, Portland was one of the busiest port cities on the entire West Coast, and by multiple accounts, one of the most dangerous. Ships from around the world came up the Willamette River loaded with cargo, and the docks were lined with saloons, hotels, and warehouses stacked almost on top of each other in what's now called Old Town Chinatown. Because the streets above were narrow, muddy, and packed with horse-drawn wagons, business owners did something practical. They built basement-level passages connecting their buildings directly to each other, and in some cases toward the waterfront itself. Goods could move from ship to storage without ever touching the street. Trapdoors built into the sidewalks, known as deadlights, let workers drop cargo straight down into the network below, sheltered from the constant Pacific Northwest rain. That part isn't legend. That part is documented, mapped, and accepted by historians. What happened down there afterward is where the story splits in two. Ask any local about these tunnels, and you'll hear one phrase almost immediately: the Shanghai Tunnels. The story goes like this. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, ships leaving Portland constantly needed crew. Sailing was brutal, dangerous work, and word traveled fast. Almost no one volunteered for it twice. So a network of middlemen, sometimes called crimps, allegedly used these same basement tunnels for something far darker than moving cargo: kidnapping. According to the legend, an unsuspecting sailor, logger, or traveler having a drink in one of the waterfront saloons could be slipped something in his glass, dropped through a trapdoor behind the bar, and carried unconscious through the tunnels to the river, where he'd wake up days later, already at sea, sold to a ship's captain for as little as $50. Some estimates from local tour operators claim as many as 1,500 people a year disappeared this way at the height of the practice. It's a chilling story. It's also one that almost no historian can verify happened in the tunnels specifically, and that distinction matters more than most people realize. Here's where the story gets genuinely strange, because the Shanghai Tunnels, as most people know them today, trace back almost entirely to one man. In the 1970s, a Portland resident named Michael P. Jones began exploring the old basements beneath Old Town. He mapped out the connected network, started offering tours through his non-profit, the Cascade Geographic Society, and built an entire public history around the idea that this tunnel system had been the operational heart of Portland's shanghaiing trade. His tours ran for decades and reportedly drew thousands of visitors a year, built almost entirely on oral history, second-hand stories passed down from old-timers, police accounts, and, by his own admission, folklore collected alongside fact. There's a problem, though, and respected historians have been pointing it out since at least 2007. There is no written record, no newspaper account, no police report, no court document from the era itself connecting these tunnels to kidnapping. The earliest known link between shanghaiing and the tunnels as a specific physical location doesn't appear until the 1970s, exactly when Jones began his tours. Before that, shanghaiing in Portland was a documented practice, but it happened in back rooms, on docks, in alleys, not, as far as the paper trail shows, underground. So which is it? A buried crime scene that the city tried to forget, or a powerful piece of local folklore that got mistaken for history because it was told well enough, often enough, by someone who genuinely believed it? That's the question that's been quietly dividing Portland historians for 50 years, and it's the exact question that gets harder to answer the further you actually walk into those tunnels yourself. Strip away the legend, and the tunnels themselves are real, physically present, and stranger than fiction even without the kidnapping story attached. There are rooms with iron bars, but built facing inward, which some researchers argue were simply storage cages or temporary holding areas for transient laborers, not necessarily prison cells. There are sealed corridors that dead-end into solid brick for no apparent structural reason. There's a section beneath a still-operating Old Town restaurant where, through a pane of glass set into the floor, visitors can look straight down into a burrowed hole roughly 20 feet deep, at the bottom of which, according to multiple visitor accounts, sits a human skeleton left exactly where it was found. Much of the original network has been deliberately filled in over the decades, closed off during public works projects, sealed for safety, or simply lost when the buildings above were demolished and rebuilt. What remains is a patchwork, some sections preserved and toured, most sections sealed, collapsed, or simply forgotten by the city that built over them. And that's the part almost nobody talks about. The tunnels aren't a single continuous system you could walk start to finish. They're fragments, isolated basements that used to connect to something larger, now mostly cut off from each other, sitting quietly under sidewalks people cross every single day without knowing what's 6 feet beneath their shoes. Whether or not the kidnapping stories are true, the isolation is real. Each sealed section is its own dead end now, its own small, forgotten room, and, depending on who you ask, that might be the most unsettling fact in the entire story. Not what may have happened down there, but how completely the city has managed to seal it away and move on. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't your typical haunted tunnel video, and there's one more layer to this story that almost never makes it into the tour scripts. Stick around, because the next part is the piece historians still can't fully explain. Here's something genuinely strange and verified by more than just one source. In the 2010s, the Cascade Geographic Society began digging out new sections of tunnel, meaning sections that hadn't been part of the original public tour and in some cases hadn't been accessed in decades. They weren't excavating ancient ruins. They were excavating Portland's own basements, the kind that exist under buildings still standing today, simply because the entrances had been bricked up, paved over, or forgotten by the building's current owners entirely. Think about what that actually means. There are property owners in downtown Portland who, until fairly recently, did not know their own basement connected to a tunnel system at all. The history wasn't hidden by some grand conspiracy. It was hidden the much more mundane way history usually disappears, through neglect, through renovation, through nobody asking the right question for 60 or 70 years in a row. And when Michael P. Jones passed away in March 2020, his organization reportedly lost access to several of its tour sites almost immediately. Property changed hands, informal agreements expired, and entire sections of the tunnels that thousands of people had walked through for decades simply became inaccessible again, this time maybe for good. Which means the most honest way to describe Portland's underground right now isn't haunted or criminal, it's unfinished. Nobody, not historians, not the city, not even the man who spent 50 years mapping it, ever got to see the whole thing at once. And now parts of what was seen may never be seen again. Was anyone ever actually shanghaied through these specific tunnels? The honest, historically responsible answer is nobody knows, and probably nobody ever will. Shanghaiing absolutely happened in Portland. That part isn't in dispute. It's recorded in newspapers and court documents from the period. What's in dispute is whether it happened here, in this exact network of basements, or whether a genuinely brutal piece of real history got attached decades later to a genuinely real but unrelated set of tunnels, because a good story needs a good setting, and an empty basement with iron bars in it is about as good a setting as history could hand someone. Maybe that's actually the more disturbing version of the story. Not that something terrible happened in a specific tunnel under a specific street, but that something terrible happened to thousands of real people in this city, and we've spent 50 years telling ourselves a tidier, more cinematic version of where it took place, because the truth, scattered, undocumented, lost to time, was harder to sell tickets to. The brick is still there. The tunnels are still there, in fragments, sealed and half forgotten, under a city that has, for the most part, simply built over its own past and kept walking. So, the next time you are standing on a sidewalk in Old Town Chinatown, ordering coffee or waiting for a streetcar, remember, there is very likely something underneath you, a basement, a bricked-up doorway, a piece of a network that once connected an entire waterfront, now sitting in the dark, sealed off, going nowhere. Whatever did or didn't happen down there, one thing is certain. Portland built its modern self directly on top of a version of itself it would rather not look at too closely. And every now and then, when a work crew breaks through an old wall they didn't expect to find, that old version looks back. If this kind of story is the kind you want more of, the real history hiding under the legend, let me know in the comments and subscribe, because there are more buried versions of more cities waiting to be told the honest way.